After 15 years of apartment living, cramped spaces, and saving every extra dollar, I finally did it. I purchased my own home. Not just any home, but a single-story ranch on a quiet cul-de-sac with mature trees and actual space between houses. The neighborhood of Oak Ridge Estates represented everything I had worked for: stability, safety, and most importantly, a place where my daughter Emma could grow up without the constant drone of traffic and sirens that had been the soundtrack of our previous life. The house itself needed work. The previous owners had been elderly and maintenance had fallen behind in recent years. But the bones were good, the price was right, and it had something that made Emma's eyes light up when we first toured it: an in-ground pool. Granted, the pool was not in great shape. The liner showed signs of age, the pump system needed updating, and the water had a slight green tint that spoke of neglect. But I saw potential, and Emma saw summer adventures. Our first week was a blur of boxes, furniture assembly, and pizza dinners on the floor. The second week, I began researching pool restoration companies while Emma started at her new school. That was when the first envelope arrived, slipped under our door while we were out. "Welcome to Oak Ridge Estates," it read in elegant script. Below that greeting was 6 pages of neighborhood regulations, bylaws, and expectations set forth by the Homeowners Association. The rules covered everything from approved mailbox styles to acceptable lawn ornament dimensions. 3 full pages dealt with exterior paint colors, all various shades of beige and tan, with names like Desert Whisper and Sandstone Dream. But what caught my attention were the pool regulations: water quality testing requirements, approved chemicals, mandatory inspections. It seemed excessive for a private backyard pool that only my family would use. I was sorting through these papers when the doorbell rang. Standing on my porch was a woman in her 50s with carefully styled blonde hair, pressed khaki pants, and a blouse buttoned to the neck despite the warm spring day. She wore pearls and a smile that did not reach her eyes. "You must be our newest neighbor. I am Donna Richardson, president of the Oak Ridge Estates Homeowners Association." She extended a manicured hand. "I thought I would come by personally to welcome you to our little community." I invited her in, more out of politeness than desire for company. Donna did not so much walk as inspect her way through my home, eyes cataloging every detail with the precision of a building inspector. Her smile remained fixed as she asked questions that felt more like an interrogation than friendly conversation. "Single mother, how interesting. And what exactly do you do for work?" "Graphic design from home. How convenient. And your daughter, where does she attend school?" "Oh, the public school." "Well, there are several private options in the area that many Oak Ridge families prefer." Her attention shifted noticeably when she spotted the sliding door leading to the backyard pool. "I noticed you have the Johnson pool. It has been in quite a state these past few years. What are your plans for it?" I explained my renovation intentions, including replastering, updating equipment, and proper water treatment. I mentioned the contractors scheduled to begin work the following week, all properly licensed and permitted by the city. "You will need to submit those plans to the Architectural Review Committee first," Donna said, her tone shifting from conversational to authoritative. "And of course, we will need to verify your water source. Some residents have attempted to use well water, which is strictly prohibited due to mineral content concerns." I assured her I would be using city water, just as the previous owners had done. Donna nodded, but something in her expression told me this would not be the end of the discussion. She left 30 minutes later, but I felt her presence lingering, as if she had left invisible cameras monitoring my compliance. The next day, I noticed Donna in her front yard across the street, gardening gloves on but doing more watching than weeding. When I waved, she quickly pretended to be deeply engaged with a perfectly healthy rose bush. That evening, Emma asked why the lady with the scary smile kept looking at our house. 3 days later, as the pool contractors arrived to begin work, I received my first official warning letter. The envelope contained a notice of unauthorized property modifications without HOA approval, despite my city permits being fully in order. I looked across the street to see Donna watching from behind her curtains, clipboard already in hand. The pool renovation progressed despite the warning letter. I had contacted the city to confirm my permits were valid, and they assured me that HOA approval was a separate matter that could not legally prevent necessary safety updates to an existing structure. I proceeded carefully, keeping copies of all correspondence and permits visible in my front window, a small act of defiance that I knew Donna would notice. 1 week into the renovation, a formal letter arrived on HOA letterhead. It was signed by Donna as president and cited community concerns about potentially unsafe water conditions. The letter demanded I permit an official HOA inspection of my pool water quality, citing bylaw section 12.3 regarding environmental hazards that may affect adjacent properties. I read through the bylaws carefully that night after Emma went to bed. The reference section did exist, but it pertained to hazardous chemical storage and improper waste disposal, nothing that granted them authority to test private pool water that was properly maintained with city water supply. I drafted a polite but firm response declining their inspection request, noting that my pool renovation was being conducted by licensed professionals in accordance with all county health regulations. 3 days passed without incident. I began to hope the matter was resolved. Then, on Saturday afternoon, as Emma and I were planting flowers in the front garden, a car pulled into my driveway. Donna stepped out, accompanied by 2 other people carrying folders, a tall, thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a shorter woman whose constant nodding reminded me of a dashboard ornament. "This is Gerald from the Environmental Committee and Patricia from Architectural Review," Donna announced without waiting for an invitation. "We need to discuss your continued refusal to comply with safety protocols." I asked Emma to go inside, not wanting her to witness what I suspected would be an unpleasant conversation. Once she was gone, I turned to face the trio on my doorstep. As I explained in my letter, the pool is being renovated by licensed professionals. The water is standard city supply, properly treated with approved chemicals. There is no basis for additional testing. Gerald cleared his throat. "Mrs. Richardson has raised concerns about runoff patterns and potential contamination risks to surrounding soil. It would be a simple matter to just allow us to check the pH and chemical balance." "It is not about the simplicity," I replied. "It is about jurisdiction and privacy. My backyard is not common property. The HOA has no authority to demand access without cause." Patricia's nodding intensified. "We just want to ensure everything is up to Oak Ridge standards. Surely you want to be a good neighbor." The implication was clear. Compliance meant acceptance into the community. Resistance meant being labeled a problem. It was a subtle form of social pressure I recognized from my own childhood. I had spent too many years living by others' rules to fold now. "I am being a good neighbor by maintaining my property properly and respecting boundaries. I suggest you do the same." I stepped back and closed the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Through the peephole, I watched their shocked expressions as they exchanged looks, clearly unaccustomed to being refused. They left reluctantly, Donna casting one last glare at my house before driving away. True to form, a citation arrived by certified mail the following Tuesday. It included a $150 fine for obstruction of environmental safety protocols, and a warning that continued noncompliance would result in escalating penalties. The letter concluded with a thinly veiled threat about the HOA's legal right to place liens on properties of members who failed to pay assessed fines. That evening, I contacted a real estate attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. After reviewing my documents and the association bylaws, he confirmed my suspicions. "They have no authority to test your water," he explained. "The bylaw they are citing refers to hazardous waste, not properly maintained pool water, and they cannot fine you without following proper notification procedures, which they have not done." He drafted a response letter citing the relevant laws and demanding they cease harassment or face potential legal action. I hand-delivered it to Donna's mailbox the next morning, watching from my car as she retrieved it, her face darkening as she read the return address from the law firm. That afternoon, I caught her photographing my backyard from the public sidewalk. When I confronted her, she claimed to be documenting code violations for the city. A call to the city inspector confirmed no such investigation existed. The battle lines were now clearly drawn. What had begun as bureaucratic overreach was evolving into something more personal, more vindictive. I realized with growing certainty that this was not about water quality or property values. It was about control. And Donna was not accustomed to losing it. The confrontation with Donna triggered something in me I had not felt in years, that primal instinct to protect what was mine. That night, after tucking Emma into bed, I ordered a complete home security system with motion-activated cameras covering every approach to my property. The system was installed within days, with particular attention paid to the backyard pool area. The technician gave me an odd look when I requested extra coverage there, but I simply explained we had experienced trespassing issues. He nodded knowingly, having installed many systems in HOA neighborhoods. My investment proved worthwhile almost immediately. 3 days after installation, at approximately 2:15 in the morning, the security app on my phone alerted me to motion in the backyard. I watched in real time as a figure moved along my fence line, periodically shining a flashlight over the top. The camera's night vision clearly captured Donna's face as she peered into my yard, paying special attention to the pool area. She appeared to be making notes on a small pad. The next morning, I compiled the footage and sent it to the HOA board secretary with a formal complaint about their president's behavior. I requested an emergency meeting to address what was clearly harassment and possibly illegal surveillance. Their response came 3 days later, dismissing my concerns as misinterpretation of Mrs. Richardson's duties as Environmental Committee liaison. According to them, Donna was conducting standard perimeter checks due to numerous complaints about standing water in the neighborhood. I requested documentation of these complaints. They provided none. Instead, I received a notice that the city had received an anonymous tip about unpermitted pool construction at my address. This necessitated an unscheduled inspection, which disrupted my workday and cost me a client meeting. The inspector, a tired-looking man named Frank, apologized after finding everything in order. "Between you and me," he said quietly as he prepared to leave, "this is not the first call we have gotten about this address in the past month. Someone really has it in for you." He glanced across the street toward Donna's house. "Watch yourself. These types never play fair." His warning proved prophetic. The following week, Emma came home from school visibly upset. When I finally got her to tell me what was wrong, my blood ran cold. "The HOA lady followed me from the bus stop," she said. "She asked me lots of questions about the pool, if anyone ever got sick from swimming in it, if you put weird chemicals in it. She said she was worried about me getting skin rashes. My daughter, only 11 and naturally trusting, had been interrogated by an adult with an agenda. That night, I created a detailed case file on my computer. Every interaction with Donna and the HOA was time-stamped and described. Every piece of correspondence was scanned. Every video clip was cataloged by date. I included transcripts of conversations, names of witnesses, and copies of all permits and legal documents. My lawyer received a duplicate copy with instructions to keep it safe. I also installed additional security measures, better lighting, a locking gate for the backyard, and warning signs about video surveillance. Emma and I developed a code word she could use if any adult ever made her feel uncomfortable with their questions. I contacted her school to ensure no one except me could remove her from the premises. These precautions felt extreme, even to me, but something about Donna's escalating behavior struck a deeper chord of fear. This was no longer about bylaws or water testing. The involvement of my child had transformed it into something darker, more personal. I recognized the pattern from my own childhood, the way certain people become fixated on controlling others, how they justify increasingly extreme measures in the name of rules or community standards. From my home office window, I could see Donna's house across the street. She had begun hosting what appeared to be informal HOA meetings in her living room. Through binoculars purchased for security, not spying, I told myself, I could see my name written on a whiteboard visible through her window. Whatever she was planning, it involved multiple allies. The quiet suburban life I had saved so long for was becoming a battlefield, with my home and family under siege from a woman whose power existed primarily in the minds of those who feared her. Each night I checked and rechecked the security feeds before sleep. Each morning I scanned my property for signs of intrusion. Emma began asking if we could move again. I assured her we would not be driven from our home by bullies, a lesson I wanted her to learn, though I sometimes questioned the cost of teaching it this way. The pool renovation continued despite everything, a symbol of my refusal to be intimidated. The water was now clear and blue, the equipment new and efficient. But neither of us had yet taken a swim. It no longer felt safe to be so exposed, even in our own backyard. Summer arrived with unexpected intensity. A heat wave settled over our neighborhood, pushing temperatures into the high 90s for days on end. The newly renovated pool sat tantalizingly ready, its clear blue water reflecting the relentless sun. Emma begged to use it, her disappointment palpable when I hesitated. After weeks of tension and surveillance, I finally relented. She deserved some normalcy, some joy in our new home. I arranged for a landscaping company to trim back the overgrown bushes along our fence line, creating better visibility and removing potential hiding spots. They arrived early Tuesday morning, a crew of 3 working efficiently in the rising heat. I worked from my home office, positioning my desk to maintain a view of the backyard. Emma sat by the pool, feet dangling in the water as she read a book, occasionally looking up to wave at me through the window. Around noon, the lead landscaper knocked on my back door. "We need to get some equipment from the truck. Your gate will be open for about 15 minutes, but we will be right back." I nodded, turning back to my computer to finish an urgent client email. Through my peripheral vision, I saw the landscapers exit through the side gate. Emma continued reading, oblivious to anything but her story and the cooling comfort of the water on her legs. What happened next occurred in a matter of moments, though it would play out in slow motion in my memory for months to come. A movement at the gate caught my attention. Not the returning landscapers, but a familiar figure in pressed khakis and a polo shirt. Donna slipped into my backyard with practiced stealth, looking quickly around as if to confirm she was unobserved. In her hand was what appeared to be a small kit of some kind. I was on my feet instantly, moving toward the back door. Through the window, I saw her approach the pool, unaware that Emma had spotted her and was now frozen in confusion. Donna knelt at the pool's edge, opposite from where my daughter sat, and removed what I now recognized as a water testing kit from her bag. She dipped a testing strip into the water, her back to my approaching figure. "What do you think you are doing?" My voice came out louder than intended, startling both Emma and Donna. My daughter quickly stood up, backing away from the pool and the intruder. Donna turned but showed no shame at being caught. Instead, her expression held triumph as she held up the testing strip. "Just as I suspected. Your chlorine levels are dangerously high. This could cause serious respiratory issues for the entire neighborhood." "You are trespassing on private property," I said, moving to stand between her and Emma. "Leave immediately." "I am conducting official HOA business," she countered, making no move to depart. "The bylaws clearly state that the Environmental Committee has the right to inspect any feature that could impact community health." "The bylaws state no such thing, and you know it," I responded, struggling to keep my voice level. "This is breaking and entering. Leave now or I will call the police." Donna stood, slipping the test strip into a small plastic bag like evidence at a crime scene. "Go ahead and call them. I would be happy to explain how you are endangering children with improperly maintained water. Did you know excessive chlorine has been linked to childhood asthma? Does your daughter have health insurance for when she develops respiratory problems?" The mention of Emma pushed me past reason. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911, maintaining eye contact with Donna as I reported a trespasser on my property who refused to leave. To my astonishment, Donna pulled out her own phone and also dialed 911, turning away slightly as she spoke in a suddenly trembling voice. "Help, please help. I am being threatened by an aggressive homeowner. She is blocking my exit and I fear for my safety. I was just trying to protect neighborhood children from a health hazard." Her voice broke with manufactured tears as she gave my address. We stood in surreal standoff in my backyard, both phones connected to emergency services, both of us claiming to be the victim. Emma had retreated to the back door, her expression a mixture of fear and confusion that broke my heart. The landscapers returned, stopping in shocked silence at the garden gate as they took in the scene. "Mom," Emma's voice was small, uncertain. "What is happening?" "Everything is fine, sweetheart. Go inside and wait for me." I kept my eyes on Donna, who was now describing to the dispatcher how I was acting erratically and making threatening movements. Within minutes, 2 police cruisers arrived, lights flashing but sirens silent in our quiet suburban street. 4 officers approached cautiously through the still-open gate, taking in the scene. 2 women, phones in hand, squared off beside a swimming pool, with confused landscapers and a frightened child as witnesses. "Ladies, what seems to be the problem here?" The lead officer, a woman with sergeant stripes, stepped forward. Donna immediately launched into her narrative, tears flowing on command. "I was performing my duties as HOA Environmental Committee Chair when this woman became aggressive and trapped me here. I was just concerned about the water quality affecting other homes." I remained calm, knowing that the truth and evidence was on my side. This woman entered my property without permission through a temporarily open gate. She was testing my pool water without consent or authority. When asked to leave, she refused. I have security footage of this and previous incidents of her surveilling my property. The sergeant looked between us, her expression revealing nothing. "Does anyone else have information about what happened here?" One of the landscapers stepped forward. We left the gate open while getting equipment. When we came back, this lady was already inside. She did not come in with us. The second officer was speaking quietly into his radio, likely running background checks on both of us. The third and fourth officers separated us further, taking preliminary statements. Emma watched it all from the back door, her summer day thoroughly ruined by adult hostilities. "I would like to show you something," I told the female sergeant once the initial statements had been taken. I led her into my home office while another officer continued speaking with Donna outside. Emma sat quietly on the couch, a neighbor who had come over to help keeping her company. On my computer, I pulled up the security footage from that day. The cameras had captured everything: the landscapers leaving, Donna deliberately entering through the open gate, and her approaching the pool with testing materials in hand. I then showed the officer the folder containing weeks of documented incidents: nighttime surveillance, the confrontation with Emma at the bus stop, the false reports to city officials. "I have been documenting everything," I explained. "This has been ongoing harassment, not a misunderstanding or HOA protocol as she claims." The sergeant reviewed the evidence methodically, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "Do you have footage of her previous trespassing incidents as well?" I nodded, pulling up the night vision video of Donna prowling along my fence line with a flashlight. "She has been watching my house, following my daughter, and attempting to manufacture HOA violations for weeks. Today she crossed a physical boundary, but the harassment has been constant." While we reviewed the evidence, raised voices from the backyard drew our attention. Through the window, I could see Donna gesturing angrily at the officer who had been taking her statement. Her voice carried through the open door. "Do you have any idea who I am in this community? I have been HOA president for 12 years. I have friends on the city council. You cannot possibly believe her over me." The sergeant beside me sighed. "Let me guess, first time someone has stood up to her with actual evidence." I nodded. "She seems to have the entire board under her control. Most neighbors just comply to avoid confrontation." "We see these cases more often than you would think," the sergeant replied, closing my evidence folder. "HOA disputes that escalate to criminal behavior. The problem is usually proving it." She gestured to my security setup. "You did the right thing with the cameras." She returned to the backyard, where I could see her conferring with the other officers. Their body language shifted subtly as she spoke. Donna continued her indignant protests, seemingly unaware of the changing atmosphere. What happened next unfolded with unexpected swiftness. The sergeant approached Donna, her posture now officially formal. "Mrs. Richardson, please turn around and place your hands behind your back." Donna's expression transformed from righteous indignation to stunned disbelief. "What? This is absurd. What are you doing?" "You are being placed under arrest for criminal trespassing and filing a false police report," the sergeant stated calmly, securing handcuffs around Donna's wrists despite her protests. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As the Miranda rights continued, Donna's face flushed crimson. Her eyes found mine over the sergeant's shoulder, burning with a hatred so intense it was almost tangible. "This is not over," she hissed as they led her toward the police cruiser. "You have no idea what you have started." The neighbors had emerged from their homes, drawn by the police presence. They stood in small clusters on lawns and driveways, watching in shocked silence as their HOA president was placed in the back of a police car. I recognized several board members among them, their expressions a mixture of confusion and alarm. Within hours, my phone began ringing. The HOA vice president, a previously invisible figure in Donna's shadow, called to express concern and open a dialogue about recent misunderstandings. The board secretary emailed requesting copies of my evidence for internal review purposes. The neighborhood social media page buzzed with speculation and quickly forming factions. By evening, a formal email arrived from the HOA board announcing Donna's temporary leave of absence, pending investigation of procedural irregularities. The carefully worded message avoided any mention of arrest or criminal charges, focusing instead on ensuring proper governance protocols moving forward. A follow-up email arrived an hour later, this one personally addressed to me. It expressed the board's deepest regrets regarding any inconvenience and requested my discretion in discussing ongoing internal matters with outside parties. Reading between the lines was simple enough. They were afraid of legal liability and public relations damage if the full story emerged. That night, local news vans parked at the entrance to our neighborhood. Someone had leaked the story of an HOA president arrested for trespassing while conducting water quality tests on a resident's property. The reporter mentioned ongoing investigations into potential abuse of power and allegations of systematic harassment. I kept Emma away from the windows, trying to shield her from the circus our lives had momentarily become. "Is it over now?" she asked as I tucked her into bed. "Can we swim tomorrow without the mean lady watching us?" "Yes," I promised, hoping it was true. "I think the watching is finally over." But even as neighbors who had previously avoided eye contact now approached me with sympathetic smiles and stories of their own Donna encounters, I knew the legal battle was just beginning. She would not surrender her power without a fight. And despite the vindication of seeing her led away in handcuffs, I recognized that community wounds heal slowly, if at all. The legal system moves with glacial patience. 3 months passed between Donna's arrest and our court date. During those months, life in Oak Ridge Estates achieved an uneasy new normal. The HOA board, now led by the former vice president, tiptoed around enforcement issues. Homeowners who had previously lived in fear of citations began expressing themselves in small ways. Garden gnomes appeared, fence colors diversified slightly, and children played more freely in front yards. Donna herself remained largely invisible, though occasionally I would glimpse her through her windows or spot her car leaving early in the morning. The restraining order I had been granted after her arrest required her to maintain a distance of at least 100 feet from me, Emma, and our property, effectively confining her to her home when we were outside. Her absence created a palpable lightness in neighborhood interactions. My attorney, Sandra Ramirez, met with me weekly to prepare for the hearing. Donna had hired an expensive law firm known for defending public officials and had filed a countersuit claiming emotional distress, defamation, and malicious interference with community governance. She was contesting all criminal charges and seeking $75,000 in damages. "This is typical intimidation strategy," Sandra explained. "They hope you will settle to avoid the expense and stress of fighting it. But our case has something most HOA disputes lack: clear video evidence of wrongdoing." The morning of the hearing arrived with perfect early autumn weather. Emma stayed with my sister while I drove downtown to the county courthouse, a massive stone building that seemed designed to make ordinary citizens feel small. Sandra met me on the steps, projecting confidence in her charcoal suit and carrying a tablet loaded with our evidence. "Remember what we discussed," she said as we walked through security. "Remain calm regardless of what her attorney says. Answer questions directly without elaborating unless asked. And most importantly, let the evidence speak for itself." Courtroom 3 was smaller than I expected, with wooden benches, fluorescent lighting, and the faint smell of furniture polish. Donna was already seated at the defendant's table with her attorney, a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who radiated practiced authority. She wore a conservative navy dress and pearl earrings that matched her necklace, the picture of suburban respectability. She did not look in my direction as we entered. The judge, an older woman with steel-gray hair and reading glasses perched on her nose, entered promptly at 9. Richardson versus Lawson, case number 347 CR 2025, the bailiff announced. Criminal trespassing and filing false police report charges, with civil countersuit for emotional distress. What followed was a methodical dismantling of Donna's carefully constructed narrative. Sandra presented our evidence chronologically, beginning with the early warning letters and escalating to the nighttime surveillance videos. The security footage from the day of the arrest played on monitors throughout the courtroom, showing with undeniable clarity Donna's deliberate entry onto my property and her refusal to leave when confronted. The police sergeant testified about the evidence she had reviewed at the scene and Donna's combative behavior during arrest. One of the landscapers appeared as a witness, confirming that Donna had entered without permission during their brief absence. Most damaging was the 911 call recording, where Donna's calm entry into my backyard contradicted her tearful claim to dispatchers that she was being trapped and threatened. During cross-examination, Donna maintained that she had acted within her authority as HOA president. "The community trusts me to maintain standards and address health concerns," she insisted. "I received multiple complaints about water quality issues." "Can you provide documentation of these complaints?" Sandra asked. "They were reported verbally at HOA meetings." "Are there minutes from these meetings recording these specific complaints?" "Not every comment makes it into the official minutes." "So there is no record whatsoever of these alleged complaints that justified entering private property without permission." Donna's attorney objected to the question's characterization, but the damage was done. As questioning continued, Sandra led Donna into revealing the extent of her HOA control, how she had appointed loyal friends to key committees, how she had selectively enforced rules against homeowners who questioned her authority, and how she had used the threat of fines and liens to ensure compliance. "Mrs. Richardson," Sandra asked toward the end of her questioning, "in your 12 years as HOA president, how many times have you personally conducted water quality tests on residential pools?" Donna shifted uncomfortably. "I do not recall the exact number." "Would you say more than 10 times?" "Possibly." "Can you name any other resident besides my client whose pool you personally tested while they were not home or without their explicit permission?" The silence stretched painfully before Donna finally answered, "No, I cannot." When the judge delivered her ruling, her words were measured but clear. The criminal charges of trespassing and filing a false police report were upheld. Donna received a suspended sentence, 1 year of probation, and community service hours. More significantly, the judge expanded the temporary restraining order into a permanent one and dismissed all countersuit claims as without merit and potentially retaliatory. Additionally, the judge concluded, the defendant is prohibited from serving in any HOA leadership capacity for a period of no less than 2 years and must pay the plaintiff's legal costs in full. She fixed Donna with a stern gaze over her reading glasses. "This court takes a dim view of using quasi-governmental authority to conduct personal vendettas, Mrs. Richardson. The purpose of a homeowners association is to maintain community standards, not to harass residents who choose to exercise their legal property rights." As we exited the courtroom, Sandra squeezed my shoulder. Complete victory. How does it feel? I watched Donna conferring urgently with her attorney, her perfect posture finally showing signs of defeat. Like I can finally go swimming in my own pool, I replied. The first true day of peace came 1 week after the court hearing. The morning dawned clear and warm, a perfect late September day that felt like summer's encore. Emma had no school due to a teacher workday, and I had cleared my schedule of client meetings. We stood together at the edge of our pool, testing the water temperature with our toes. "No one is watching us today," Emma observed, scanning the surrounding fences and homes. She had developed her own form of hypervigilance during the conflict, always checking for observers before relaxing. "No one," I confirmed. "And if they were, they would just see a mother and daughter enjoying their own backyard." We spent that day in and around the water, swimming lazy laps, floating on inflatable loungers, and eating lunch on the patio furniture I had finally purchased. Occasionally, I found myself glancing toward Donna's house out of habit, but the curtains remained drawn, the driveway empty. According to neighbors, she had gone to stay with her sister in another state to recover from the stress of recent events. The following weekend, I hired painters to change our fence from the standard HOA brown to a soft blue-gray. The color fell outside approved guidelines, but within the new, reasonable variations, clause the reorganized board had adopted. As the painters worked, several neighbors stopped by with unexpected housewarming gifts, months delayed but seemingly sincere. A retired couple brought homemade bread. A family with children Emma's age invited her to a birthday party. The invisible barrier that had separated us from the community began to dissolve. The new HOA board, elected in an emergency session after Donna's legal defeat, operated with a lighter touch. The new president, a middle-aged professor with a dry sense of humor, made a point of holding board meetings in the community center rather than private homes. Minutes were published promptly, and the previously Byzantine approval process for home modifications was streamlined to focus on major structural changes rather than decorative details. "You know, you should consider running for the board yourself," he suggested one day as we both retrieved our mail. "We could use someone with your attention to documentation and procedure." I laughed. "I think I have had enough HOA politics to last a lifetime, but I appreciate the way you are managing things." Emma blossomed that autumn. Without the constant tension at home, she made friends in the neighborhood and at school. She joined the swim team, leveraging her daily pool practice into competitive skills. On weekends, the sound of children laughing in our backyard became commonplace, a soundtrack of normalcy I had once thought beyond reach. The security cameras remained, as did the habit of checking them each night before bed. Some wounds heal slowly, and the sense of violation does not disappear with a court victory. But their purpose shifted from gathering evidence to providing peace of mind, a subtle but profound difference. 6 months after the court date, a large envelope arrived in my mailbox. It bore no return address, but the postmark was from the city where Donna's sister lived. Inside was a 10-page handwritten letter, the script tight and controlled despite the emotional content. It began without greeting. "You have no idea what you have done. 12 years of dedicated service to maintaining Oak Ridge Estate's property values and community standards, destroyed by your selfishness and inability to follow simple rules. The neighborhood is already showing signs of decline without proper oversight. Children running unsupervised, unapproved plantings visible from the street, holiday decorations exceeding reasonable dimensions.